Well, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. You're very, very welcome to this first masterclass in the legend of the digital world. First of all, my name is Anthony McCarthy. If you don't know me, I'm known around the world as the Irish Marketer, which is probably one of the reasons that we kicked this off on St. Paddy's Day. It is a day of legends, which is where we came up with the title of the Legends of the Digital World. And I'm absolutely honored to have a renowned legend of the digital world kicking off our inaugural program tonight. And that is the legendary Matt Furey. I met Matt a couple of years back at an event, and Matt has the Irish surname of Furey. And matter of fact, as I said on one of my lives earlier, it is fascinating because there is a family over here called the Furey brothers, who are musicians and are fantastic storytellers. So it must be something in the heritage of the name that they're able to craft and create amazing stories. So without me waffling on much further, because you're not here to hear me tonight, you're here to hear Matt Furey. So Matt, I've just brought you back in there. So if you'd like to say hello to everybody.
Hello, everybody. I'm glad to be on this call with you, and especially knowing that I don't have the first name Finbar. Because isn't that the name of the musician you told me about, Finbar?
That's right, Finbar Furey. Absolutely, he's an amazing. He's an amazing singer for a guy who has no voice, which is interesting, right? He's able to tell such a story with his voice, and he is an amazing musician. I mean, truly remarkable. And he plays the Irish uilleann pipes, which are something-ish like the bagpipes, just they don't screech as much. And it's absolutely, stunning, stunning piece of music. So, Matt, happy St. Patrick's Day to you.
Well, thank you. Happy St. Pat's to you. I hope you're not eating the food they serve up in the U.S. for St. Patrick's Day. It's an abomination unto St. Patrick.
Well, to
corned
be
beef and hash, and,
Yeah, see, we don't have hash, right? It doesn't exist. We go on.
They come up with these phony meals here in the U.S. to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, and then we find out that over in Ireland they don't do any of that. I mean, in the U.S., if you're Irish and you need to sell your house, you bury a statue of St. Joseph in your front lawn upside down. And when I was in, you see, you're laughing because you're laughing, but this is a serious thing here. My mom, she couldn't sell our home back in Iowa for, I don't know, a couple months. Got the St. Joseph's kit, buried it underground. Next thing, the same day, the phone rings, and got a buyer. And when I went to Ireland in the fall of 2002 to give a number of clinics, I was asking the people there if they had ever heard of this Irish. It was presented to me as an Irish custom, and not one person had ever heard of such a thing. So,
no, to be perfectly good, that's new on me.
It's amazing.
Like Saint Anthony here, which is why I'm called Anthony, is because I had two older sisters, and my mother was looking for a son, so she prayed to Saint Anthony, and I was named after him. Right? So I can understand that, or the Virgin Mary. But the real funny thing is, when you went to houses when I was growing up as a kid, there was 3 pictures on the wall in most people's kitchen. There was a picture of the Sacred Heart, there was a picture of the Pope, and there was a picture of JFK. And not in that order.
I know. You don't see that here in the U.S., but at any rate, as I said, it's it's a blessing to grow up being Irish, but there's some curses that go with it as well. But when you are on the lucky side of the fence, you tend to avoid most of those curses. So I thank my mom and my dad for that. They buried a lot of statues.
So if there's anyone looking to make some money, you can find some vintage statues buried in the ground at.
That's what I do. Every email I write, I bury a statue of St. Joseph in the front yard, and seems to work.
You must have a big front yard, my friend.
But it is interesting when you explore the magic of believing. If you don't believe that it'll work, it probably won't. But if you do, then you're going to get a phone call in short order with somebody who wants to buy your house. So for all of those of you on this call who need to sell your house, whether you're Catholic or Irish Catholic, there's a difference. You get yourself a St. Joseph's kit and you bury the statue. And there's instructions on how to do it. You got to do it the correct way, otherwise it won't work. I'm pretty sure you have to bury him head first. He's got to be upside down. I'm not kidding you. This is
the next time I'm over, right, which will be in the summer. I'm going to find one of these kids and buy one. I've got to see this. I have just got to see
this. You can buy them. They have them in religious or Catholic stores where you can buy books and rosaries and all that sort of thing. But I didn't find one in Ireland. I looked and looked and looked and couldn't find one.
No, I must check with my parents, because my parents are in their 80s, right? So I must check with them and see have they ever heard of it. So I'll come back to you on that one.
Yes, that'll be interesting.
Yeah. So Matt, do you want to start sharing your screen?
I'm on my iPhone. Will it show?
Okay. You can if you want. They're not. It doesn't matter. You can just keep talking. That's fine. No, we have the.
Are you sharing your screen?
No. We have the header up. That's perfect. Because Matt is fascinating, guys. Because Matt's now going to sit back, and I'm going to get off, and I'll be here, Matt, listening intently to every single word and making my notes, like everybody else, because I know you don't like flattery much, being Irish, because it's kind of goes against our blood. But literally, I have read the book that you kindly gave me when we met, which was Expect to Win, Hate to Lose, which is an absolutely brilliant book. I would recommend anybody to pick it up. And you very much talk about that mindset. So I'm going to jump off, and any questions, guys, put them in. If you've got any questions, we'd be happy to take them at the end of the session. And Matt, it's over to you.
Very good. Well, I was really surprised to get this invitation from our good buddy here, Anthony McCarthy. And I'm glad to be here with you today and give you a little bit of insight and background into how I got involved in email marketing, email copywriting, and how I evolved into the world's greatest email copywriter, which many people have said of me. I repeat what they say rather than say it myself. But I got started online in 1995. I was a personal fitness trainer in California. I'd been doing that since 1987. When I first began in the world of business, straight out of college, it was as a personal fitness trainer. But I wanted to pursue two different ambitions in addition to working with people fitness-wise, and those were to be a writer and to be a stand-up comedian. As a writer, I pictured myself writing books, and also as a columnist, somebody who would write a daily column in a newspaper or a weekly column in a news magazine, something of that sort. But I didn't know how to make those things happen. I wasn't aware of any process to do it, other than you got to submit book proposals and ideas to publishing companies and get rejected. And the whole idea of getting rejected was unappealing to me at the time. I didn't have a whole lot of time when I wasn't training people, and to spend it sending out envelopes of proposals to Madison Avenue companies and never hearing back, or hearing back and it being a no, wasn't the way I really wanted to spend my off hours. But I still had this dream, and many years later, back in, it was the summer of 1995. So about 8 years later, I'm reading a news magazine, a weekly political news magazine, and there's an advertisement in there which didn't look to be an ad. It looked more along the lines of an article. It had a headline, and it had story, it had paragraphs. It was set up the same way as an article. And the headline was, "You, a Millionaire Writer." This was an advertisement put out by the legendary Ted Nicholas, who's a good friend of mine. And it was really sparked my interest. I read the entire ad, which to me was an article. At the end of the advertisement, there was a call to action asking me to call a phone number and request a special report, which I did. Within a few days, I received the special report in the mail, and at the end of the special report, there was a call to action, and there was a product, how to write a book and sell 1 million copies, along with the audio tapes from the seminar. There were 20 hours worth of audio along with this book. The price for it at the time was $317. I remember scrounging and going through my closet, anywhere where I had any buried money, looking for that amount of money. I really didn't have it. But with a little bit of luck, I was able to come up with that amount of money and send a money order, and the product arrived within a week. Upon getting it, I would sit and I would listen to the audio tapes, and I would have the workbook with me, and I would fill everything in. I devoured the 3-ring binder that came with it. It was a manual telling me how to write my first book and how to publish it myself. So the book that came with the course was How to Write a Book and Sell 1 Million Copies. And Ted Nicholas at the time had sold several million copies of his books. And in sitting in his audience at this event were names of people who were getting their start in the world of copywriting from him. And many of these people today are household names in direct marketing, but I didn't know who they were at the time. Gary Halbert was one of the featured speakers on the tapes. I listened to him and to Ted and listened to those tapes over and over. I began to write my very first book, and I was in the world of publishing it within a few months of listening to everything. The interesting thing about this, and this is how I got started online, is one of my clients, his name was Adam. He was a pimply-faced 16-year-old high school boy who was coming in to train with his father each day. And he says to me, "Well, why don't you put your book and your videotapes on the internet? Why don't you put them on the World Wide Web?" I had no idea what he was even talking about. I didn't know what it was. I had a computer at the time, but I didn't have any connection to the online world at all. Well, Adam did me a favor. In his spare time, he put up my very first website along with the products. And then he gave me a couple ideas of how I could put the message out there. There were these bulletin boards at the time, nothing along the lines of what we see today, not even close. And I put out a message basically saying, any of you out there in the great wild west and wild east and all over the world, basically, interested in a book on grappling. My first book was entitled The Martial Art of Wrestling. Well, I didn't even know at the time to look for people who were replying to this message. I didn't really have any expectation. I didn't know what would happen. I was just putting a message out there. A few days later, I get some type of notification that flagged me that there were people who've responded to my post. I then found where these replies were, opened them up, and to my shock, the very first 3 people who responded and wanted the book were from Glasgow, Scotland, from Winnipeg, Manitoba, Canada, and from the North Pole, Alaska. At the time, I thought the North Pole was basically something in a Christmas movie or cartoon. I knew there was a place called the North Pole, but I didn't think it had a P.O. box or people actually lived there. And all 3 of them ended up being customers and buying my products and becoming good customers. In the interim, as this website began to develop, Adam, put up a private bulletin board on my site that I would write messages and post, the same as a blog of today. But I had it set up where nobody could respond to anything I put up. And unbeknownst to me, when I wrote something, it was also sent out by email. Simultaneously, it went up on the web and it went out by email. And an amazing thing began to happen is I would write these emails and the phone would ring and people would place orders for whatever I was talking about in the email. And this is taking it back in time because today people would just click a link and they'll buy. They don't usually call you. But back then, people were very, very fearful and shy, let's say, about ordering anything on the internet. And the claim at the time was that the only thing that sells on the internet is pornography, and that nobody has figured out how to sell anything else except them. Well, I was getting phone calls, and the next thing you know, I'm putting products in envelopes and handwriting the labels and going to the post office and mailing all these packages. I then started to put feelers out because I'm a published author. I then contacted some people who had news magazines as well as magazines in the wrestling and martial arts niches. Because I was a published author, these people then took me in as a columnist. So 2 parts of the dream that I articulated at the beginning of this call were already transpiring. One was that I found a way to write and get a book published by doing it myself. And the good thing about that is I can control all the content and I make virtually all the money after you factor out the expenses of publishing it as well as advertising. So all the money is mine. Very good deal. Well, the part 2 of it was I wanted to be a columnist, and now I am one. I'm not a columnist in the city newspaper, but that's fine by me because I enjoy little anonymity. But I am in these other magazines. And As a columnist, it brought more and more people to my website. And as people came to my website, they joined my email list. And I had more and more people to send daily emails to. The daily emails also became, in many respects, the same as if I was writing a daily column for a newspaper. I had the monthly columns, and then I had my daily email, which was a column in a different sense of the word. When you look at it, the email going up on the website into what we now call a blog, I'm published, and I'm doing it all myself. Then the third part of the dream was stand-up comedy. Well, I don't go around and to nightclubs and do stand-up comedy, but in my emails there's sarcasm, there is a lot of joking around, there's a playing around with words, and so on. In my products themselves, there is a definite percentage of that going on. It's just part of how I operate, is to see the world in a slightly twisted, or maybe very twisted way from time to time, and that gets integrated into everything I write and everything I speak about. This then evolved into me doing seminars over the years on the topic of internet marketing. I had my first one in 2003, about 8 years after I got started online. Dan Kennedy had encouraged me to do one. And again, at this time, 2003, 15 years ago, I'd been on the internet for 8 years, and still it was commonly perceived at the time that nobody has really figured out how to make money on the internet except the porn industry. At the time, give you a little history, Amazon.com still hadn't figured out how to make a profit. They were losing hundreds of millions of dollars annually. And then after a period of time, they shored up the whole market, and now they own Whole Foods. But it's really interesting because around 1999, I'll go back a little bit. I jumped to 03 in my seminar. But around 1998-99, the media conspired to convince the people that everyone was going to be ordering Christmas gifts online. Up till that point, people were still very, very afraid to order online. But they put out a lot of press releases. You had the media, the written media of newspapers, you had the radio, you had television, all conspiring and saying that this year sales on the internet for Christmas shopping are going to be, and they'd give a percentage higher than ever before. Now, how did they know this? My contention is they didn't know it. They made it up, and people listened to it, they believed it, and they acted accordingly. This is how a lot of things get started. Well, in 2003, I had my very first seminar and on internet marketing, and specifically on information publishing. The course was how to build an information publishing empire from your spare bedroom in your spare time. And that was truly my story. I started in a small little room, which I called an office. I wrote my first big-time bestseller, Combat Conditioning, on an iMac, one of those multicolored iMacs at the time. They had a strange shape to them, and they came in an assortment of colors, and it was really heavy compared to the ones of today. And my desk in 1999 when I wrote this. We had moved to Florida from California. My desk in this office was a card table. The chair I sat on in front of this card table desk, in front of this iMac, was a card table chair. By the time I finished writing that book and had it published and began promoting it, the card table desk was now moving closer and closer to the carpet. It was sinking. Lucky for me, the book took off. It really kicked ass out of the gate. I was amazed because my other products up till then, although they had made me money and I wasn't losing money with them, none of them had brought in money in just buckets until that book. And I then began to email every single day talking about this book, talking about the exercises in it, and people were buying and buying and buying. Then I took out some advertisements in the magazines promoting the book, as well as advertisements online on various news sites and blogs all over the place. My sales then went from thousands of dollars a day to over $10,000 a day. I was totally blown away. And as a result of this, what I became known for over the years is very interesting. This is why I said at the beginning, I evolved into this. What I became known for, aside from this guy is a fitness guru, or this guy is somebody who's made a fortune on the internet selling real products to real people. That was a phrase I coined at the time, and you see it's been repeated all over the place since then. Many of the things that I've written, I have seen the same verbiage that was never used before being used frequently, but real products to real people. And so this evolved into me being known as a copywriter, and specifically an email copywriter. That this guy, you got to tune in, you got to read his emails. They're funny, they're irreverent, they're politically incorrect, they're informative, they're philosophical, they're psychological, they're hypnotical, they're all sorts of these different things going on simultaneously. I then was being asked to speak at other people's events, other people's seminars, including as a headliner, and I would basically teach and explain to people what I do in my emails. I would talk about my approach, my methodology, and people would be taking copious notes. At the end of the event, they'd be lining up in droves to buy my products on this subject. And that's really, in a nutshell, my story, how it happened. Going from literally a card table chair and a card table desk to having a nice home, not only here in Florida, but also in China. My wife is from China, and we have our vacation home there. This is something that you can do. Email copywriting is something that you can do no matter where you are. You don't need to even have a laptop or a desktop computer. You can do it from your iPhone or your Droid or your Samsung. You can do it from an iPad. I have positioned myself in my email copywriting Facebook group as a one-finger copywriter. What this means is that you'll see a lot of people when they type or text on their phones, they use two thumbs. I don't do that. I hold the phone with one hand and I press the buttons with one index finger. And I've written some things with that method that have garnered a significant income. Most of the time when I write an email, I'm in front of a computer, but when I'm traveling and I'm on the road, have something to say, I just do it with one finger. This is amazing that you can literally use one finger and bring in a fortune. The key to understand here is that where is the income potential? Well, most people who have websites don't send out daily emails. Many people who have websites, here we are in 2018, still don't even have a method to capture emails. They're not even doing this. This is what we call acres of diamonds in your own backyard. Acres of diamonds at your fingertips. If you just get yourself a mechanism on your website, a pop-up or some kind of embedded, I'm not a website designer, so I don't even know how to tell it to you, but an embedded, encrypted method for people where they get on your webpage and they see, sign up for our email tips. Of course, I teach it a lot more, a lot better than that. You don't just say, but even if you just had that, you would be way ahead of the game. But here we are. I meet people all the time who want to make more money, who have a website, they have products and services that are not selling, or they want to have products and services and sell them on a website, and yet they have no way of capturing names and email addresses. It should be a crime to put up a website and not have this. Once you have that in place, then you got to know how to write the emails in a way that people are amenable to reading, to listening, and to taking action. There is a style. There is a way to do it that is corporate, wherein you appear to be this nameless, faceless company where no human beings work there at all. Or you have the option of doing similar to myself, wherein you position yourself as somebody who may live next door to you. And he's giving you a window into his world. He's giving you the power to be a voyeur, to watch, and to take interest in somebody else's life for no reason whatsoever, other than he writes some interesting stuff, and I think he's telling me things nobody else is telling me, and he's doing it in a way that most people don't have the courage to do. Most people today have bought into the political correctness. They bought into the don't offend anybody, be careful about what you say, be careful about everything you write. And I'm not saying that you don't have some caution, but you do need to eliminate most of it. Otherwise, you are not being who you are, you're not being yourself, you're not being authentic, and B, you're boring. And people will not be bored in print. This is something that was written by a man named Claude Hopkins in his book, My Life in Advertising, back in the 1920s. Is the power of advertising. People will not be bored in print. And that is in newspapers, in books, in magazines, on websites, and in emails. You must separate yourself from other people and be just a little bit different. That's all it takes. Just a little bit different, a little bit different way of saying things that separate you from everyone else. There's an author named Robert Ringer, and he's written a number of books that all became bestsellers, that he self-published, by the way. But one of his theories, I believe it was in his book, Looking Out for Number One, he gave a theory which he called the out-of-step theory. And I am doing my very best here to make sure I get it as correct as possible. But the out-of-step theory basically stated that the more out of step you are with what everyone else is doing, the greater your chance for success. We live in a society where people want conformity. They want everybody to fit in. They want everybody to be the same. And that type of thinking is actually death to a startup business or to a business who wants to differentiate itself from all the others. You actually want to be different. You want to take pride in being different. You want to even be different on purpose if need be, not accidentally. With me, I was not accidentally on purpose. I'm just being who I am. And when you hear people say about you that, man, that guy or that girl who writes the such and such doesn't care what anyone thinks of him or her, then you know you're really going to strike a chord wherein people get emotionalized, they get excited, and they want to become customers. They want to follow you because you're real. And in a world of phonies, it's easy to separate yourself and to make a name for yourself and to create significant income, prosperity, and wealth if you're willing to do that. It doesn't take much. It's just a willingness to be different. We were created to be different. All of us have different DNA. We have different fingerprints. We have different thoughts and opinions. Let them out of the bag. One of the things I will say here, and then I can take some questions, but one of the things I would say here is that when you are being authentic, when you are being real, and you position yourself this way, there will be those who will say that you're not. They'll actually think the opposite, that, oh, he's a phony or he's a this. And that's part of what goes with being in business, and you just have to accept it. And I actually teach techniques to get people over that type of fear. It's very easy to eradicate that fear. And I can actually teach somebody in 30 seconds to 30 to 120 seconds and have that fear or limiting idea literally terminated or burned out of your brain and central nervous system. So it's no longer holding you back. You just be who you are. And if somebody is a naysayer, if somebody has something critical to say, you let the person have his or her opinion, and you really don't care. You move on. And that is something that I didn't go into the business with. I had to learn it. But when I got that down and really recognized how to overcome this obstacle, this fear of what other people will think, then I moved to a whole nother level of success. I think a lot of people hold themselves back because of this conscious or even unconscious fear of being criticized or condemned. And the world is going to criticize you and condemn you no matter what you do. Even if you try to conform and be one of the crowd, there's going to be those who who think less of you because of that. People are going to criticize and condemn because they think you're the wrong skin color, or your skin is too white, or it's too dark, or you're too tall, or you're too short, or you're too heavy, you're too stocky, your hair isn't the correct color, you don't have any hair, your teeth are crooked. Uh, there's a zillion reasons somebody who wants to hate can come up with to dismiss you and to not care for you. Well, one of the ways of handling this is understanding that this isn't a contest to get everybody's vote. I don't need 100% of the vote. I don't need 100% approval in this field, in this business, to do well. I can actually, if there are, you think of the size of the world, you think of the size of the U.S., for example, 330 million people. All I need is a fraction of those people hanging on my every word, and I can build a fortune. I was taught by a gentleman who's passed away a number of years ago, but his name was Jim Straw. And one of the things that he said is most people, they go into this, or when they learn about this type of business opportunity, they think they need millions of customers. They need an email list of at least 100,000 people. They need a YouTube channel with 1 million people, et cetera, et cetera. But you really only need 500 really good customers. 500 really good customers, and you are on your way to building wealth. Well, how many customers do you need to get 500 really good ones? Well, the answer is that all customers are really good. But there's an 80-20 rule called the Pareto principle, and that's 80% of your business will come from 20% of your customers. If we then look at that and we start, all right, if 500 is 20%, then let's start adding 500s, and how many do we need to add before we're getting closer to that 20%? It's pretty interesting. If we have 5,000 customers, 500 would only be 10%. If we have 2,500 customers, 500 would be 20%. If we have 400 really good customers, 2,000 customers would be the same. So that's the way to look at it. Most people defeat themselves because they think this is bigger than it is. And you really will learn best when you do what I say, and that is to microtize everything. It's my own made-up word, I believe. Microtize. Instead of maximizing everything and thinking of it as being gargantuan and big, let's take what is big and let's divide it up into small little components. Every component then builds on the next one and the next one and the next one. There's a wise man who once said that the fool looks at everything as easy and therefore struggles in the end and finds out it's difficult. He ends up being embarrassed. Whereas the wise person looks at everything as difficult, therefore he encounters no difficulties. What this means is that if you look at email marketing as difficult, you'll then take the time to learn how to make it easy. But if you look at, oh, this is just easy, there's nothing to it, then you'll be sloppy. You'll take it for granted. You won't put in the time to really get good. So you look at it, in order to create wealth, you look at what we're doing here as difficult only so that you use your mind and your resources to the maximum. So you get the best out of yourself. You don't go into anything with overconfidence. You don't go into it thinking, oh my God, I'm going to make millions. And then you're disappointed. You go into it with this attitude of, let me see if I can make one sale. Let me see if I can learn this and make $100 a day. Or everybody I've met who really kicked ass, who started from scratch, whether we're talking about Matt Basic, my friend, or we're talking about, I mean, I can go on and on. When they started on the internet, they had no earthly idea that they would ever generate the wealth that they did. They got into it for fun. They got into it because they wanted to give it a whirl. Let's give it a try. Let's see what happens. And then initially the goals were very small, very simple. Let's see if I can make $100. Let's see if I can make my first sale. Let's see, prove to myself I can make $1. And then from that you go up and you start adding to it. And this creates momentum, because anyone who does what I teach and the other people that are on this old Legends of the Digital World, if you do what you're being taught, you can succeed. But you want your successes to build momentum. If you go into this with, I'm going to make $1 million the first year, then if you don't, the first few months out of the gate, you're not doing well, you start to lose confidence. But if you go into this with, let's make $100, all right, now let's make $200, now let's make $500, well, now let's make $1,000, and you achieve every one of those milestones, you achieve every one of those smaller goals, you're building momentum, you're building confidence, and as your confidence grows, your courage grows. And then one day, something clicks inside your brain, and you realize, oh my God, I'm making $25K a month. I'm making 50 grand a month. I'm making 100 grand a month. You know what? If I make 100 grand a month 10 times, that's $1 million. And that's how it works. Matt Basic and I were talking about this the other day. Both of us are surprised that we did and have done what we've done. And I can assure you, we're not alone. And in fact, we both said that every time we set a big goal in the early days, we set a big goal of making $1 million or and so on, we just flopped and floundered and flailed and failed. But when we kept the goals really small, easily manageable, easily achievable, then we not only achieved those, but all the other ones that came after it. This is called building momentum. You want to build momentum. Make it easy for yourself to succeed. And you make it easy for yourself to succeed by being wise enough to learn how to do it, to get the products, to get the services that are being offered, so that you're not scratching and clawing your way to a successful experience, but you're getting into the first class seat and learning firsthand, here's how I do it. I'm going to do this in comfort. I'm going to do it the smart way. I'm going to learn what other people did. How did they do it? Stand on the shoulders of giants. Don't try to do it alone. Doing it alone just to prove you're smart is stupid. Doing it alone to prove that you don't need any help, to me, is ignorant. Take the time to learn from what other people have to offer. And that's what you've done today by being on this call. And I sincerely hope that you have benefited. And now I will open it up to questions, Anthony, and do my best to cover them as concisely and accurately as I possibly can.
Excellent, Matt. Thank you very, very much. So, guys, has anybody got any questions? One of the questions that's in, Matt, is, on copy, where do you get your inspiration to start?
Well, there are a number of ways to get the inspiration to start, and that's just having an idea, having an impulse of something to write about, to express an opinion. So many people today are sort of badgered into not having opinions. One of the best things you can ever have said of you or to you is, you're really opinionated, or you need to form some opinions, sort of mocking you. That being opinionated is where it is. So you have an opinion you want to express, and that's part of the inspiration. The other part is you have information that you think is valuable, that people can benefit from, and you want to put it in front of people to test. And when you put it in front of people and they respond favorably and say, oh my God, this is awesome, this really helps me, then that gives you more inspiration and more momentum to come up with something else.
Okay, and another question is, when you write emails, is it always about products or random stuff?
Is it always what?
Is it always about the products, or do you write emails about random stuff?
Or do I write emails to what?
So do you write, my Irish accent, when you write emails, is it always about products, as in, is it always selling something, or do you talk about random stuff?
I talk about random things frequently in most of my emails, or quite a bit of my emails, but then I figured out a technique to segue from whatever I'm writing about, no matter how extraneous or irrelevant it may appear to the product I have. I figure out a way in the process of writing it to segue into the product. So it really doesn't matter where I start. I'm always going to end up in the email itself talking about a product or a service that's beneficial to the person. Now, if I'm just doing a straight sale, let's say I have a 25% off sale or something to that, I'm not going to really start off with something random. I'm going to get to it very quickly, and it's going to be short. It's going to be the shortest email I write. But then again, one of my most incredible sales I ever had was in 2005. It was called the 050505 Double Happiness Birthday Sale. My daughter shares the same birthday as myself. She had just turned 1 at the time. So I had a sale to commemorate the May 5th, 2005. And I had a picture of her with me in the email. I talked about how we had the same birthday and so on. And then I said, this date in time doesn't come around very often. And I started to sell my product. And in fact, on the my original email copywriting CD program, I'm actually reading those emails and writing them in the seminar format as I was teaching, and giving people the results of how much money was coming in. I believe we did $250,000 in 2 days with that sale. So even with the
Sorry, can you say that again?
Double Happiness Birthday Sale,
You did
a
a quarter
quarter
of
of
a
a
million
million
dollars
dollars
in 2 days
in 2 days
from one
for
email.
that event. Not from one email, from a series of about 5 or 6 emails sent out over the course of 2 days. So within 48 hours, $240,000 to $250,000. I believe it was $250,000, but I may be being nitpicky. It might have been $240,000, but we can round it off, I guess, and say $250,000. And that was built around a birthday, a random event. It wasn't some other person's birthday. It wasn't JFK's birthday. It wasn't the Pope's birthday. It was mine. It happened to be my daughter's as well. So that was huge. But you can literally write an email about any topic under heaven, so long as it resonates with your audience. One of the other tricks that I teach in my courses is how to write emails based on current events to enter the conversation going on in people's heads. You go out to a coffee shop and somebody looks at you, hey, did you hear about the bridge that collapsed? You say, so that's on everybody's mind. Did you hear about the train that went off the tracks? Did you hear about the hurricane that just hit such and such? And then you start bringing that into the email itself, and it increases readability, it increases clickability, and it increases sales dramatically.
So one of the things you said there, Matt, is you said that you sent out a sequence of emails. So one of the great debates on email and email copy and sending emails is the number of emails to send in what period of time. Everybody's looking for a magic number. Do you believe a magic number exists, or what way would you approach that?
Well, I can tell you, this is what I can tell you based on my experience and based on the people who have followed what I teach. One email a day is better than one a week. One email a day is better than 3 emails a week. One email a day is better than 4 emails a week. If you send one email every single day, you'll make more money than you do if you have a frequency that is less than that. Here's the interesting thing, though. If you send what I would call my morning is everyone over 18 on this call?
I would assume so.
Yeah.
If there's anyone under 18, please
All right.
mute
So
the
this is a
microphone.
little off color. So those of you who are offended, I apologize in advance, but I'm still going to say it. All right. So I call it my early morning lube job. So you would send out an email in the morning that is sort of puts lubrication on the person's skin so that they're gliding and sliding through life. They're enjoying, oh my God, did you read what Furey wrote this morning? It was awesome, etc., etc. Then in the afternoon, I would send my afternoon delight. And that is my way of expressing that the afternoon email is the same as the morning one, only that you will consummate the relationship a little bit deeper. And so when I used this, when I figured this out, my sales went from, let's say, $3,000-$4,000 a day with just an email in the morning to over $10,000 a day when I sent in the morning and in the afternoon. Now, when I do a big special sale, such as the 050505, that's when you can go to 3 emails a day, and the 3 emails will outpull 2, and they'll outpull 1. Now, you might get somebody who writes you and says, give it up, it's obviously not working. And you just laugh to yourself because they think you're writing 2 or 3 times a day because you're not getting any response. But the fact is you're writing 2 or 3 times that day because it's working so well. And I can tell you this now, personally, currently, I don't send emails out with the frequency that I'm teaching you to do now. And it's up to you. I mean, a person is free to do whatever he wants. I'm not making a law here, but I can tell you that everybody I've trained and who's followed this can tell you the same thing. The other part of this is the reason that I don't send emails out 2 and 3 times a day anymore is because I've made my money. I don't have to work at it as hard as I did 10, 15 years ago. And for the last 9 years, I gradually cut back more and more and more, and to the point I was sending out an email once every few months. But I started coming back to work here this year in January, and the response has been explosive. It's been huge. So, as Caleb O'Dowd said, when you give people good feelings, they remember you. And people are glad to have me back. I still don't write an email every single day and send it to every one of my lists, but I'm writing every day and I'm communicating with my list every single day. And that is especially my Facebook groups. They're hearing from me all the time. But even using a Facebook group, when I put something up, it is sent by email. So it's still really the same idea. It's still really the same idea. So email copywriting is the key, because you can use it not only in your email program, you can also use it on your website as a blog. You can also use it on Facebook to strengthen your bond there and to grow your group. You can also use it. Most of my emails or most of the columns I wrote in the magazines over the years, they were emails that I wrote. And then the editor, hey, Furey, we need another column from you. I would just look through my blog, my archive of all the emails I'd written. I'd pull one out that I thought fit, and I would make a few tweaks to it, send it to him, and publish it in the magazine. And then the book that I gave you, Expect to Win, Hate to Lose, that once again is a compilation of 62 of my best emails that I turned into columns in a magazine. So this tells.
You're saying, Matt, you take your emails and then you use them as blog posts and then use them as Facebook. Because some people would think that you shouldn't do that because you're getting, people are seeing the same thing over and over again. What would you say to that?
I would say that people want their information organized. So, all right, I can go to a blog, or I can get your daily emails, and I can print them all out and put them in a nice file. Or I can have all of that, but you know what? He came out with the book with a nice cover, and he added some pictures to it, and he added some content that's a little bit different. And when they're fans of yours, they want it. So there are plenty of authors out there who have taken my advice and done exactly this, and they put their books out there, and their books became bestsellers. So the foundation is email copywriting. If you can write really good, riveting emails, everything else you'll be able to do, from writing sales letters to writing blogs to writing columns for magazines, for articles, newsletters, or books or courses. All of it's the same. The foundation, and why I say email copywriting is the foundation, is because when you do it the way I'm doing it, you're basically writing letters home to your friends and family.
Very good. We have an absolute ton of questions.
And that's really become a lost art in many ways. People don't even write by hand anymore. So many don't. They just type. And So this creates a vacuum because this element of communication by mail, by hand, is missing in society today. Nothing is extracted without creating an opportunity for something else to take its place. If you pull up a tree or you pull up a bunch of vegetables, weeds are going to grow. If you leave it untended, it will be filled with weeds. Something will take its place. This is where I think that email copywriting is the greatest thing to ever happen in the world of communication, because now it's instant and it can be broadcast to a large group rather than it being limited to, well, I'm writing just to this person and just to this person. It has both functions, but you don't write a letter home to your mother and handwritten and publish it in the newspaper. So you still have that communication one-on-one you can do through email, but you also have it as a group where you can email a list of 500, 1,000, or 100,000.
So another question we have an absolute ton of questions in, and we're going to try and get to as many of the guys as we can. Now, I don't know who the person he's referring to here is, but I'm going to ask you a question anyway. How do you think you differ from Ben Settle when it comes to writing emails?
Well, it's an interesting question because Ben Settle himself gives me all or a significant amount of the credit for his email copywriting prowess. He has, from the moment he really got started writing emails, he has told his list and his customers to buy my products, to get my original email copywriting course. He's told them to subscribe to my email list, and he's told them that he learned from me. Now, so the question is, how do I differ? Well, I don't really know I want to answer that on this call.
That's fine. We'll move on to the next question.
I really don't, because there definitely are some differences. Even though he learned from me, I read his emails. I think they're great. I think he's done a superb job. I applaud him wholeheartedly. But there are some differences in our styles. There are some similarities. I can probably make a pretty good case that he got El Benbow, his nickname, from watching me call myself El Furecat. I mean, we can go on and on there. And I think it's wise that he, yes. But I don't want to actually get into a nitpicky analysis of how we're different.
The promise we made to everybody is we'd ask the questions, but comparison questions, guys. I've asked Matt the question, and I'm going to stop him there because it's like comparing apples and oranges. They both have a function in one, and things are slightly different. And I don't know who the person is. I really like this next question as well. It's from Ralph. If you were to start over today with nothing, no money, no contacts, etc., what steps would you do?
This question was asked of me earlier this week on my email copywriting Facebook group, and I'm going to give the same answer I gave that person. I would do it the same exact way. Why would I do anything any different? If email copywriting is the foundation of all the other copywriting skills, why would I get into bots or some of the other things? I don't even know what they are. I just stay away from them because I know that this is it. This is the way to do it. So I would do everything the same. I would just do it even faster. I would write columns that go in the magazines. I'd write columns and articles that are posted online on various websites and so on. I would become an established authority by being the author of a book. I would I would put my emails on the website in the form of a blog, exactly as I'm doing now. I mean, I wouldn't, if I was starting from scratch, everything would be the same. Only thing is I would have a little more wisdom on how to do it faster, which I do have that wisdom today, thank goodness. You know, so.
So basically what you're saying is you would follow in your own footsteps. That makes sense. So another question is how do you come up with a killer title? That's from Graham.
How do I come up with a killer what?
Title, as in subject, like on an email.
For email subject line?
Yes.
I'm assuming. Yeah. Well, there are a number of ways. Number one is I will sleep on it, and in my sleep, I'll pose a question to my brain of what am I going to write about tomorrow, and while I'm sleeping, my brain will work on coming up with an answer, and oftentimes I get it that way. Other times that it's in the shower. A lot of people get their most creative ideas in the shower. I'm no exception to that, but I do get a lot while I'm sleeping. There's people who are sort of anti-sleeping these days. They think that 4 hours a night is all you should get, and that you're wasting your life if you sleep more than that. And I experimented with the 4 or 5 hours a night sleep for about a week, and I wrote about it with a lot of passion while I was experimenting with it, but ultimately I shit-canned that idea because when you sleep and you do it the way I do, you're getting as much productive work done as when you're working. So why am I going to eliminate sleep?
Einstein used to go to take the problem, put it to the front of his mind, and go for a nap. It's a historical fact. Albert Einstein used to do the exact same thing. If he had a problem, he would literally sleep on it, which is where the expression came from. Have we lost you, Matt?
If you view sleep as a waste of time, you're basically saying that you don't know how to use your time. I start with a subject line that gets me writing the email, and then I finish the email and I read it over, and or as I'm writing it, I realize that I missed the boat and I have one that's even better, and then I'll change it at that point. So, for example, the one I sent out today to promote this call was, what was it on St. Patrick's Day sucks? Why St. Patrick's Day sucks? Yes. See, that wasn't what I came up with initially, but as I'm writing it, it came to me. So, instead of this, I'll do it this way. And so it's editing. It's looking at what you've written and being willing to make a change. So many people, when they write, they have this idea that their words are so valuable you can't possibly tweak them. That these words came to me from Almighty God, and you can't edit God. Well, I think that you can. Look at how many versions of the Bible there are.
We're not running down that rabbit hole, Matt. Moving swiftly on.
Yeah.
So, do you think
you have the Irish Bible yet? You got to get it. Yeah. So.
Yeah. At the end of the call, I'm going to tell you a bit of interesting history about Guinness at the end of the call. But anyway, so we have, look, guys, we have an absolute ton of questions, and we're going to try and get to as many as we can. But Matt's giving us such great content. I don't want to cut across them. And I know Matt has a special offer for each and every one of you tonight, so we'll get to that in a little bit. So do you think story content or conversational content works best?
Do I think story content or conversational content works best?
Yeah.
The answer is they both work. And I use both intermittently. I mean, Sometimes I use both in the same email. Sometimes I use one or the other. But you have to have more than one way to tell a story. You need more than one way to skin a cat. And if the only way you can tell a story is, let's say, with dialogue, you're limited. I want to be able to do it in a number of different ways.
Okay.
And it makes it different. It makes it different. It's unique. Yes, go ahead.
No, you're fine. I'm not going to interrupt you. Keep going. So
Yeah.
the
Well,
reality.
I think if you only have one way to express yourself, you can be perceived as boring. But if you have more than one way, so there's some emails I send out that are more philosophical than they are story, and those are very, very powerful. But 90+% of them are story. And where would philosophy be today if there weren't stories? You have to have a story, and that's actually the hallmark of great email copywriting is the ability to tell a story, and that's really what I specialize in doing. It's the Irish gift of gab, comes in real handy.
Yes, which was found, which you get from kissing the Barney Stone, which was built by the McCarthys. So,
Yes, yeah.
another question. I have been writing a daily email, call it a blog, for almost 5 years now. I have no product yet. I am told that my writing is inspiring. I want to grow my number of followers. How?
If you've been writing a blog for 5 years and you have no products, it's because you haven't taken what you've written in your blog and turned it into one. So create a book. Take your best of your best from your blog and put together some sort of a book so that now you're an authority. You're a published author who has some clout. So other people will listen to you more. You're no longer Joe Schmo, who writes the blog. You're Joe Schmo who wrote the book, How to Take All Your Blog Posts from the Last 5 Years and Turn Them into a Bestseller.
Yeah, and that solves two problems. So, another question, Matt, is do you think long emails or short email works best?
They both work. It depends on it depends on what's going on. See, so when I write an email that is, let's say, going for the jugular, I'm having a sale today, it's 33% off, it's probably going to be a lot shorter email. But if I, want to put some sunscreen on before I go out, I'm probably not going out in the sun for 3 minutes if I put sunscreen on. So I want to make it a longer email and more entertaining and so on. I've never been a fan of the really long emails that are 2,000 words long or so on. Most of mine are 400 to 600 words. I feel comfortable with that length. But it really is more about what you as a writer feel comfortable with expressing. If you're only good for a couple of paragraphs and you run out of gas, then only write a couple of paragraphs. Because the reader, this is another Fureyism I coined, the reader picks up on your vibration or your energy. If what you wrote was easy and it flowed and you had a good time and you're laughing your ass off or you're even crying, they feel that. They pick up on that when they read. And so if it's easy and it flowed, they will actually have an easy time reading your email. And if it was struggle, if it was laborious, if it was unnecessarily difficult, the person will have a difficult time reading your email because that's your energetic signature in the email. So there's a way that I teach that so you get into the good vibration when you write. But that's really the key understanding is the easier it is for you to write, the easier it is for a person to read. And you just, for me, writing 400 to 600 words a day, it feels really good. But if only writing 200 or 300 felt good, then I would stop at that. This is where you got to make choices. You be careful of making too many laws because people will find a way to skirt around them. The fewer rules you have, there's more principles and concepts. That's really what I teach. Here's the principles, here are the concepts. But people are always looking for laws. And then the first thing you want to do is figure out how to bypass that. And when the government raises taxes, it creates more loopholes because people want to figure out how to avoid paying the taxes. But if you get the taxes as low as possible, well, then what is there to try to avoid? See, that's the way I look at it. But what the hell do I know?
Quite a lot by the answers to some of these questions.
Yes.
So I'm going to ask you two more questions, Matt, and I'm going to kind of randomly pick them, guys, because I would love to get to everybody, but I think we just can't. So here's one: is how often do you write product catalyst emails, follow-up emails, and continuing connection emails?
Again, I would say that this is slicing and dicing to the point of nausea. I don't even think that way. Every email I write is a connecting email. Every email I write, I think of as I'm connecting with my audience. There isn't a single email I write that I don't think that. So whether it's a product announcement email or whether it's a follow-up email, all are designed with that in mind. The connection is most important. And to being an authentic, a real, sincere human being, that's what's most important. And some of those emails will be a product announcement. I have a new product out. I want to tell you all about it. And so on. But I think the one thing I want to say here is that so many people, they think that after they've announced a product and after they've sent a number of follow-up emails for that product, that their job is done. All right, well, I guess we'll find another product now. But I wrote emails every single day talking about combat conditioning and the exercises in that book. Every single day for 10 years straight. Now, don't you think I should write about something else? Don't you think people are a little tired of this? No, they're not. And you got to understand that your marketing, this is one of the things that Bill Barton said in his advertising resources decades ago. Again, he's deceased, but people don't realize you're marketing to a parade. You're afloat in a parade. And most of the people are standing on a block or around a corner that have not seen you yet. But you as a marketer have this idea that, oh, I sent out this email and I pumped this for a week or so, and everybody's seen it. No, they haven't. Not everybody has seen it. You have new people joining your list every day, and you have a bunch of people who didn't open the email that you sent out. So they don't know. So you continue to bang the drum. You always bang the drum. but your focus is always to deepen the connection. Even when you're selling and that's all you're doing, it's still connecting with the audience. And in fact, you can argue that that creates the deepest connection. The most boring seminars I've ever attended, where the room is damn near in a coma, is when nothing is being sold. And even the seminar, the person running the seminar will get up on a pedestal and basically begin praising himself because he's not selling anything at the seminar. I told you I'm not selling anything here, and I'm not going to do that, and blah, blah, blah. And the audience needs an IV to recover from how bored they are. As soon as you begin to sell something to a group in a live seminar, the blood starts to percolate and bubble, and there's excitement. The people who want to buy get excited, and they feel more deeply connected to you because they bought. And the people who absolutely are not going to buy no matter what, they're also excited too. Because they're looking around and seeing if they're the only dum-dum in the room that's not buying. And they're trying to make their decision based on, what are other people doing? Oh, should I fit in or not? But there's a mixture now. You got a mixture of a couple different elements: the buyers, the lookers, the people who, I'm not doing this no matter what, and that creates fireworks in the room. It's a completely different room. So when you send out an email and you're selling, don't ever think that you're not deepening the connection with the reader of the email. You just strengthened it, because now they can't wait to receive your product. When they receive your product, then they're thinking, man, I'd love to meet this person someday. I'd love to meet Charlie McCarthy. Do you remember Charlie McCarthy? No, you're Anthony. I want to meet Charlie McCarthy. Wait a minute, Charlie McCarthy? That's a ventriloquist puppet. Yeah, but I want to meet him. I want to meet him. I want to meet this person. This is actually what people think when they read your books. They think, oh man, I wonder what this person is all about. I want to meet him someday.
That's so true.
Then you go from having an email to a book that they have, and then a seminar, and then you have coaching. They want to go further and further and further because you open the door.
So I think that, guys, we have another load of questions in, but I think since Matt has brought it up about getting your blood flowing, Matt, I know you created something very special for the people tonight. Do you want to talk about it?
You want me to talk about something that I have that,
Yes,
that
sir.
people can get involved in?
Yes, sir.
I'll be happy to do this, and this is really unprecedented. Somebody earlier brought up Ben Settle. Ben Settle, for years, has been telling people to get my original CDs, and people have written me over the years privately and asked me if I would make them available. And the answer depended on how I was feeling that day. Some people I'd just tell them, no, it's not available. Other people I'd make the CDs available. And to a person, they all raved about it. But Ben has always said to people, if you can get them. Well, as a result of me coming out of retirement this year, actually semi-retirement, coming out of my cave, I discovered something really incredible, is that I'm now known more for my email copywriting than for my fitness. And when you're not even that active for 9 years and people still consider you the best, that's a hell of a gratifying statement. So what I've done is I have made an offer for the people on this call where they can get the entire 2 days on audio of the original email copywriting seminar I held, that the attendees paid $10,000 per person to be there. And that was just for the copywriting segment. That wasn't their airfare and all that. But 10 grand they paid. And these people went on to become incredible online marketers. And in some cases, we're talking making millions of dollars. There's other people over the years who've gotten a hold of these CDs who've also, many of them, have made millions and millions of dollars and upgraded their income significantly from the power of what's on these. So what I've done is I am making those available for $1,077. So that's a significant discount from the 10 grand. And along with it, I'm giving 2 free bonuses. Again, all of this will be digitally delivered, so you'll get it instantly. The 2 courses, the 2 other free gifts. One is a combination of many of my email copywriting and internet marketing newsletters that people paid $149 a month to receive. I took approximately 10 of my best ones, that maybe 12, 10 or 12, and put them into a book called How I Went from Rags to Riches on the Internet. It's one of my best titles for seminars and headlines for seminars I did over the years, is the whole Rags to Riches on the Internet. And that book you're looking at, it's about a $1,500 value when you add it up, but I'm giving that away for free. And I'm also have a collection of a couple hundred of the very best emails I ever wrote. And I had somebody look at my daily results of how many sales were made that day and what dollar amount. And we took all the emails that were written and sent out on days that I made at least $10,000. Now, I shouldn't say all the emails, but the 200 best. And I put those together in a manual that is called Emails that Change the World of Direct Marketing. Having your hands on this alone is basically the ultimate swipe file on email copywriting. And you can look at this, you can see the stories, you can see the dialogue, you can see the compelling calls to action, the subject lines, the openings, how did I get people's attention from the get-go and maintain it throughout the entire email. How did I word the call of action? One of the biggest problems people have is they're afraid to ask for money. They're afraid to go for the close. You read these emails, that'll no longer be an issue at all. So all 3 of these products together come in this bundle. The CDs, again, or the audio, the MP3s, are $1,077. And when I throw in those other 2 products, now it's an absolute steal. I mean, if you're at all interested in becoming a kick-butt email copywriter and making a fortune and doing it in a way that people actually love, then you owe it to yourself to give yourself the best chance humanly possible to do it. And stand on my shoulders, look over my shoulder, look around my shoulder, whatever you got to do, but learn from me and develop this skill. And then, who knows, down the line, you're the next Ben Settle, you're the next Charlie McCarthy. No, you're the best. I mean, there's so many of these. Harlan Kilstein, Caleb O'Dowd, Mark Ford, all these people rave about my email copywriting. So I am absolutely unashamed and unabashed to put this program out there and tell people you got to get it, and you got to get it now.
So just to say, guys, the link is obviously up on the screen because I put it up, and it's being sent to you all in chat so you can get it. Not to cut across the map, we'll ask you. Now, I'll be honest, it's a product that I'm going to be picking up myself because, the level of money, Matt, that you made from emails is absolutely enormous. So it's an absolute steal. And I love the idea of the newsletters as well. It's brilliant. So we'll answer another couple of questions, guys, just for a couple of minutes. So David says he started when we answered about his emails. He started the book thing 2 years ago, put it down. That's great. So when you have 10 different products built up over the years, how do you find time to write about them all?
Well, you don't find the time to write about them all. It really gets to what we call having the time. You know, do you have sufficient time to write about them all, or do you have adequate time? This is a concept taught to me by a gentleman in Arizona about a year and a half ago. We don't have time to do this, that, and the other time, but do we have adequate time? And you don't need to sit around and write about all of them all the time. Write about product. Take what you call your franchise product. Write about that 80% of the time, because that's 80% of your sales come from that. And then you start to pepper it with the other ones. But I'm not a big fan of the write about this one for a month, now write about this one for a month, now write about this one for a month. No, you've got to look at, if you are the owner or the manager or coach of a professional organization of athletes, football players, baseball players, and so on, you have a franchise player that you pay the most money to. That guy gets more money than almost the whole team combined. Well, there's a reason, because he's the playmaker. You want to look at your products the same way. What is my franchise product? Talk about that most of the time. Pepper the other ones in intermittently.
Cool. So Niels is great. Listen, and it also says, what are some of the best ways to get exposure?
Say again?
What are some of the best ways to get more exposure?
Well, take off all your clothes and run through the park, man. You'll get plenty of exposure.
I knew you were going to answer that one.
Was that a perfect setup? I mean, how could I resist that? How could I resist that?
I just absolutely knew that you were going to show it.
The real answer is virtually the same, though. If you want more exposure, you've got to be willing to say things that other people aren't saying and do things that other people aren't doing. You know, when Jack LaLanne needed exposure in the fitness world, he did fitness feats. He'd swim across the island of Alcatraz in San Francisco, handcuffed and shackled, towing several boats with people on them. Or he'd crawl on his hands and knees over broken glass for 3 miles. You do something. You do something different. And this is where, I believe Stephen Jobs said, all you got to do to differentiate yourself in the marketplace is be 10% different. You really don't even have to be 10% different. You're just 1%. And you just sit around and start thinking of and coming up with ideas that celebrate your uniqueness rather than hide your uniqueness.
Okay, so Matt, question from me, right? Because I'm going to ask this same question to every single person on all of the Masterclass. If you were to meet a 18-year-old younger version of yourself, right, who was going to start out in the business and looking and the rest of it, what would be the 3 golden tips you would give yourself?
80 years old, wanting to get started in this business.
Yeah, 18, not 80. Just to be sure. 1-8.
18?
18.
1-8 or 8-0?
1-8.
1-8.
Yes. So you just started out of school, bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, looking at the thing, and you've got the ability to give yourself 3 tips. What would they be?
Well, the first would be
Business tips, by the
to
way.
the what?
Business tips, email copy tips, not anything else.
I was gonna. That's why I was trying to figure out which one was first. Yeah. Well, the first I would say is that you become a published author, and you find a subject that you know, or you study a subject until you know it pretty well, and you begin to write about it. You begin to make lists of all the things that you know and formulate it into some kind of a how-to book. That positions you as an author. It positions you as an authority. The second would be to set up a website to promote and sell that book. And the third would be to begin writing daily emails and articles that you publish on your own website, other places on the internet, as well as offline, to drive people to that website so that they get excited about what it is you have to offer and want more of you. So that would be it. I mean, get published, publish or perish. That's really important. You want to be remembered? Then write books. Publish or perish. And then create a website so you have a vehicle that people can see. And then you put your articles, your pictures, your videos, and all of that. Those would be the top three. To me, everything else is a spinoff of that. Speaking in public is a spinoff of that. Having a Facebook presence and so on. All of these are spinoffs. You look at the people you follow on Instagram. I saw your video on Instagram. I've seen your crap on Facebook. No. So you put these videos up on Facebook and on Instagram, but are they not then being directed to a website? Of course they are. So website is king. Having a website, I shouldn't even say is king. Email is king. And writing articles is king. But there are three kings. Remember the three kings? You know, you better study your Bible if you don't remember the three kings, man. They found the star. They found where the creator, the ultimate creator was. And where is the three kingdoms? Where are the three keys? They're being published. It's having a website, and it's writing every day and publishing every day. So that's it. I mean, everything else to me, I don't care what you do. I have people who've come to me to learn my email marketing secrets who have YouTube channels with hundreds of thousands of people. That I even had one, I won't name the name, but he has over 1 million people on his YouTube channel. He bought my course via Ben Settle's recommendation. I met with him in person, brought the course to him in person, and we stood around and talked, and he said, he's done very, very well with YouTube, but email is still the king. And he wants to learn how to do it better. So here's an acknowledged guru of YouTube coming to me to get my email marketing course. What does that tell you? It tells you that there's a reason you and I kicked off this event with me.
I absolutely love it. I absolutely agree, by the way. Right? 100% agree. So
yes,
you are definitely a legend.
Well, and if I were to give point number 4 to this 18 years young version of myself, it would be to laugh, to have a good time. That life, whether it's short or long for you, it's going to ultimately be short. So figure out a way to enjoy it and to laugh every single day. And to me, this business that we're talking about is the ultimate laugh. It's amazing. It's almost insane and unfair how much money we can make doing so little in terms of getting out in the ditches and digging or putting up shingles on roofs or, laying roads. Think about how hard that is. And it reminds me of the Jewish proverb, or the Hebrew proverb, maybe that's a better way to say it. A pencil is lighter than a shovel, you know?
Yes, it is.
So figure out how to make money with your brain.
And the way that I figured out a long time ago was to do a couple of things. One was to find out who the best in the business are at the different sections that I want to learn and go learn from them. Because people say sometimes, like, I often tell the story. The first program I ever went to, it's where I met our old friend Matt Basak for the first time. And I landed up buying 3 or 4 programs of that. Different things, and it was just eye-opening, the fact that, hang on a second, I can sit on a computer, talk to people around the world, and I can do it from my mobile phone and make money, provided you know the tools and the correct tools, and you're able to the same as you are, Matt. It's truly remarkable. So I'm going to thank you very much for coming on, guys. Thank you. Is the price really 1,077? I thought Matt said 177. No, John, it's 1,077. Because he originally did the program for 10,000, so it is 1,077 tonight, and that is an absolute steal. And one last question that I'm going to ask to Matt is, it's a coach online. He says, does he still sell the combat conditioning book? I'm into fitness.
I do. Mainly, I have the FureyFaithful.com member site where you can download it as part of that. But if you insist on having the actual copy of the book in your hands, just drop me an email, mattfurey@mac.com, and let me know your request, and I will forward that on to our staff, the lady in fulfillment, and she will get a hold of you and make that available to you.
Excellent. So, guys, the offer is there. It will be taken down tomorrow, just to tell you. To be fair to all the people that are coming up afterwards, and that it's 1,077 tonight for a program that is truly remarkable. So go on and grab it. I hope you had as much fun on this as I had. To Mr. Furey, I have to say thank you very much for kicking it off. It was an honor and privilege. And you did not disappoint, Matt, in any shape or form. And thank you very, very much for coming and taking the time on St. Patrick's Day.
It's been my immense pleasure. Thank you very much, and I look forward to seeing you again.
Okay, folks, so have an absolute great day, and we will talk to you. I'll be talking to you all again tomorrow. And in the meantime, the link is there. It's legendsofthedigitalworld.com/Furey. I'll stick it in the chat one last time for you so you have it, and so you can get it. And we'll look forward to talking to you. And the responses are coming in here, Matt. Hot and hard. Thank you very much. Also, thank you very much. Thank you very much. So, guys, with that, we wish you a great evening, and enjoy the rest of your Patrick's Day wherever you are in the world, and look forward to talking to you tomorrow. And in the meantime, have a great one. Thanks, Matt.
Thank you.